Welcome to English vocabulary. Let's go straight to the list.
As mad as a box of frogs.
Completely insane.
Let's try it in a sentence. He seems able to frighten the life out of MPs and really does come across as being as mad as a box of frogs. Another example. I wish she would retire from the public eye, be elusive, continue to cultivate the mad as a box of frogs image by all means, but stop talking and concentrate on the singing.
As mad as a gum tree full of galahs.
Of a person completely mad or irrational.
For instance, mad as a gum tree full of galahs, he stormed. Why don't they pay cash? Another example. I reckon we all pretty much agree that Chris is as mad as a gum tree full of galahs, but we need the people like Chris of this world. Another example. When they find out who hasn't turned up to play, they'll be as mad as a gum tree full of galahs.
As mad as a hatter.
Completely insane.
For example, to prove there is nothing as mad as a hatter, Jane Bombane unveils her greatest hats at the Shed, Brawby Village Hall, near Malton, on October 25th. Let's check another sentence. Being John Malkovich takes you into a tunnel where you crawl straight ahead on all fours toward a light, and you think maybe Lewis Carroll's waiting at the other end, because it's all very surreal and as mad as a hatter. Let's check another sentence. She's mad as a hatter, but that bunch of loonies will love her.
Off, or out of, one's head.
For instance, I went off my head and used crack cocaine. It was intense. I was doing things that I never thought I could do, robbing people because drugs had a hold on me. Another example. My old man's going off his head, you know. Let's check another sentence. Maybe ordinarily Al would have had enough sense not to push it, but right now he looked stubborn, grouchy, and about half out of his head with pain.
Off one's nut.
Out of one's mind.
Example. There are new bands coming through, but no one else seems to realize that rock music is in the middle of a zeitgeist just now, and kids who are 19 just want to get off their nut and go crazy. Another example. Of course, it was the super catchy single Crawling in the Dark that generated the most applause, but it was interesting to see that the crowd went off their nut for most of Hoobastank's other material too. Next example. He cocked his head and looked at me as if I was off my nut.
Out of one's skull.
Out of one's mind.
For instance, when removed in I was very ill, depressed out of my skull, afraid of the world and generally an apathetic blob. Another example. I think you're out of your skull for coming back. Let's check another sentence. I knew I would go out of my skull if I didn't work, she says.
Round the twist.
Out of one's mind.
Example. As well as maintaining that searching for a reason can drive one round the twist, the colorful Charlie has revealed through his writings that sometimes he feels like an alien in this strange world. Another example. I have finally finished the report that's been driving me round the twist for the past month or so. Let's check another sentence. No doubt the constant bleating eventually sends them round the twist.
Certifiable.
Mad.
Let's try it in a sentence. We get a glimpse of the horror and desperation of psychiatric illness, but for the most part the film is about girl bonding and mild rebellion, like a slumber party for the certifiable. Let's check another sentence. Or think about 90% of all the literary protagonists we find most memorable: Ahab, Heathcliff, Stavrogan, even all the way back to Don Quixote. Every one of them is certifiable. Another example. In her best novels, psychopaths collide with normal folk, and as they rub along together, a murder here, a suicide there, the normal folk are soon revealed as certifiable.
Looney Tunes.
Deranged.
For example, with Sun, Uranus, Neptune and the weekend moon playing Looney Tunes in the curious universe of Aquarius, who could predict what this week's winds of mischief will bring? Next example. But the convenience of centralized shopping doesn't have to mean the insanity of centralized livestock farming and Looney Tunes imports of things we don't need and didn't ask for. Let's check another sentence. The whole deal was Looney Tunes, except without wackiness or duffiness.
Out of one's gourd.
Out of one's mind.
For example, conventional wisdom holds that people like you are out of your gourd. Next example. Maybe it was the toxic fumes of all the lead paint, but cartoon creators were obviously out of their gourd. Another example. So figure out what to do with yourself before you become bored out of your gourd.
Screwball.
Absurd.
Let's try it in a sentence. If voters had any brains, they would find a way to ensure that she has much more time on her hands to pursue her screwball theories. Next example. A service pilot in one of my flights north had reported to operations that I was a crazy, screwball pilot and that he was scared to fly alongside me.
Bonkers.
Mad.
Let's try it in a sentence. You're stark raving bonkers. Another example. Even now, mixed-race children either embrace a black identity or go bonkers trying to fit into a white society that won't accept them as one of their own. Let's check another sentence. When I suggest he could subsidize lower ticket prices by putting on fewer concerts, he looks at me as though I am bonkers.
Meshuga.
Of a person mad.
Example. That town was heavily doused in radioactivity from the nearby atomic tests. Perhaps that explains this meshuga project. Next example. It might seem meshuga to stage a beloved musical in a language that most of the audience won't understand.
Potty.
Mad.
For example, with such a ludicrous and potty law sailing through the European Parliament, it's more than ironic that such moves have been supported by politicians from the UK. Next example. You may think it sounds ridiculous and that I'm absolutely potty.
Please feel free to comment on this list. We love to hear from you. If you liked the video, please hit the thumb up and share it. Also, please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so. By the way, the photos on this video are street photography of London, and don't directly represent the topics. You can find the photographer's Instagram in the description below. If you have any suggestion for the video graphics, please let us know in the comments.